Hampshire, the people talk so much about the heroin problem, and you don't see it that way. You know certain locations, and you have certain locations, and you can understand that, but you never see it here, and yet it's the first question I get almost always, how do you stop it? And there's nobody going to be tougher at the border than Donald Trump. Nobody. And we're going to have that wall, and that wall is going to be built. And we have great people over there. We have the Border Patrol. They're great. They called me when I first started this whole thing. I got a call. I went to Laredo, Texas. I met with them. These are incredible people that want to do their job. They want very much to do their job, and they're not allowed to do their job. It's just they're told stand down, and they're not allowed to do it. And they're going to be allowed to do their job. Believe me, folks. And so we're going to secure the border, and you're not going to have the problem that you have right now. We're going to really try and make it. Part of the problem with the heroin, it's so cheap because it comes in so much. The supply is so massive that it's cheaper than getting candy. And your kids are getting hooked, and plenty of other people besides the kids are hooked. And we got to get them better. We got to get them out of that addiction, and we'll do it. We'll do it. We're going to work on it. But that's one of the main questions. Whenever I come here, I'm always hearing about that. And it just doesn't set. You drive through these beautiful areas and the trees on each side, and you want to get out and go hiking. But it is a problem, and we're going to solve that problem. And we're going to solve many other problems. We're going to strengthen our military. Nobody closer to the vets. The veterans have been supporting me all over the country, and we're going to straighten that out because our vets are being treated horribly. So we're going to straighten that out. And we're just going to do a great job. I mean, we're going to be a president. If I get elected, you're going to be so proud of this country. You're going to be proud of your president. And it's starting here. It's really starting here. And let's get going. Okay, so let's take some questions, and we'll have a little fun. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. An issue that's on the minds of a lot of young voters is a year of service. Research shows that 5 million young Americans would step forward and serve their country for a year with programs like City Year and Teach for America, if given the opportunity. However, today there's only 60,000 positions, so not enough room for that 5 million. So as president, what will you do to expand national service opportunities so that it's a common opportunity for every young American?
Right, it's a good question, and a lot of people, Obama used to talk about it, but like a lot of other things that never happened with Obama. We're going to look at it. A lot of young people are asking that question, and it's a way to get started, and there's something beautiful about it. So we're going to look at it very seriously. But it's a thing, actually, the Democrats always talk about it, and nothing ever happens. So you watch, okay? Thank you. Very good. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Thank you.
My name is Bill Simmons, and I just have a brand new granddaughter, love of my life. And I want to know that be able to tell her under a Trump administration that first she will be safe, and second that she will have an equal shot and equal pay for with the guys.
Yeah. Well, and number one, she will be so safe. She will be so safe. I don't consider ourselves safe right now. You look at our border. We're taking in the folks with look, the migration is a horrible thing, and we all have a heart, and we see what's going on. But we can't afford to take our chances. We don't know who these people are. You see what two radicalized people did in California a few months ago, 3 months ago. We're going to be very tough, okay? We're going to be very tough at the borders. We're going to have to be. And if we're not, we're just not smart people. So we're going to make sure that she's going to be safe. And we're going to work very, very hard on other countries because the wrong people are getting the wrong kind of weapons. The biggest problem we have today is the weaponry, the power. It's never had power like this. And frankly, I was never in favor of the war of Iraq. I was against it. And I was right. The only one now running that was against, other than somebody else that's running on the other side as a communist, running as a But we do have to, because what's happening now is the power of these weapons. We have to be respected as a country. And when we say don't do it, they're not going to do it. And one of the things that has happened, our military has been totally depleted. I don't know if people see it, but our military has been totally depleted. It's depleted. It's, we need so badly strong military. Not to use it, just we're not going to be messed around with by anybody. When we speak, people have to listen. And that's not the way it is right now. We've let so many people down. And we've let our military down. We have people that are tremendous service, people that have been, they go to Annapolis, they go to West Point, they go to the Air Force Academy. They come out, and we're not picking our toughest and our smartest. We're using people that are politically correct. I see it all the time. I see these generals being interviewed on television. I hate to see generals interviewed on television. I don't want to see my generals interviewed on television. They shouldn't be. I always think in terms of General MacArthur, General George Patton. We have great people. We have to find our best people. We have to do so great with the military. So we're going to make our country so strong like it hasn't been maybe ever. Maybe ever. Because the real problem today is the power of weaponry. And if the wrong people get a hold of the wrong weapon, we've got problems like you've never seen before, like you've never envisioned before. The World Trade Center would be peanuts by comparison. So we need the proper leadership, and we don't have it now. And by the way, Hillary and Bernie, that's not the proper. Remember Hillary's ad in bed if you get a call at 3 o'clock in the morning? Well, guess what? She got that call. She didn't answer it. Right? So we have to stop that. Okay, question. How about back here? Go ahead. Go ahead.
My question to you is, people of my generation are facing a huge issue of the loans on the college debt. What are you going to do as president to try to fix that? Because many of my friends are now graduating college and they're $100,000 in debt, and they're not able to go out, find a job, start a business, or even start a family and get a mortgage for a house because the banks are denying them because of that. And the interest rate just continues to increase on those.
Did you graduate? Are you graduating?
I'm at UMass Lowell.
Oh,
I'm
good.
paying for it because I'm in the National Guard.
Oh, I see. Okay. Very good. All right. It's a question I'm hearing all the time where young people are really financed up to the hilt. They can't breathe. And I'll tell you, there's two things I'm going to do about it. I'm going to look into colleges because, this is a conduit, the young people. They get the money, they borrow from the federal government. It's one of the only things the federal government makes money on because they're charging these kids a lot of money and they make money. The federal government makes a lot of money on these loans to students because, for one thing, the students want to pay off their loan and they work hard to do it. The biggest problem we have is the students come out and there's no jobs, right? They come out, there's no job. They wouldn't mind. They don't mind borrowing a little money. The other problem they have is the schools are too expensive. Because if you look at these schools, what they've done is they've increased the numbers so high because the federal government's going to pay for it. So the government gives them all of this money, and they keep going up, 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 and people get more and more money that run the schools, and they spend more and more money. And I'm going to find a way that we got to stop it. Because if you look at the cost of running these schools, so now what they do is they get more money from the kids, and they just keep getting more money, more money, more money. The fees keep going up, 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 and we're going to find a way. We're going to do something with regard to really smart financing, and we're going to lengthen it out and lower the cost, but we have to do something. The biggest thing we're going to do is we're bringing our jobs back into this country. We're bringing them back from China. We're bringing them back from all over the world. We've been stripped. And one thing I can tell you, New Hampshire's been, you're the prime example. You go around, you see some of these buildings around here that used to have factories. And now they may be converted to senior citizens and different things, but that's not jobs. It's not jobs. And we're going to bring our jobs back from Mexico and China and Japan, and now Vietnam is the new threat because they're taking business like crazy. And so many other places. We're bringing our jobs back so that when they get out, they're going to have a job because that solves all problems. But the cost has gone up way more than it should have, okay?
Arnold, I know Alan's not here today, but we forgot to do one very important thing before we started. We forgot to do the Pledge of Allegiance. And I also want to take...
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I like that. That was very nice. That's very good. Any other questions? Go ahead. Sir, with the red, beautiful red.
Mr. Trump,
Yes.
with your permission, I'd like to make some statement of fact here as to why he must be the president of the United States.
Oh, I love this guy. I love him. This is the kind of question like a good statement. No, go ahead.
I'm not pandering, Mr. Trump. I've worked in 62 countries in my career. My lifetime was chief of the CIA. We were in Vietnam. We evacuated Nam, we evacuated Tehran, so I've seen a little bit of the country and the world. I was in countries where the trail of corruption from Bill and Hillary Clinton, 90% of the people in here have no idea of what the bought and sell people in this government have done to us and to our economy. I'm sure everybody lost money back in '08. I know I've not recovered. There's reasons for that. One of them is your arch enemy, the Federal Reserve, who's not a federal government agency. It's private. It's owned by banks in New York, banks in Switzerland, banks in France. Most people don't know that. They printed money to the point where $22 billion in debt.
It's true.
What I want to bring up is a book that every American patriot should read. My wife got it off Amazon. It's called Clinton Cash. The untold story of how and why foreign governments and businesses helped make Bill and Hillary rich. I've been through it, but when I read this, I think I needed a barf bag. It's that bad. How, in God's name, I know you're not bought and paid for, and I've told everybody, that's why I'll vote for you. I'd vote 10 times if I could. But how are you going to fight this corruption that now exists?
It's such a great question. Well, first of all, I'm not bought and paid for. You know, I'm self-funding my own campaign. All these other guys are not. I watched television, the different shows this morning, and I watched this stiff Jeb Bush. He's a total stiff, Jeb Bush. Here's a guy, honestly, if you weren't in government, you wouldn't hire him to do anything, okay? You wouldn't hire him. If you had a company, you wouldn't even hire him. He's on every show. Donald Trump said this, Donald Trump said that. And then he said, see, I'm the only one taking on Donald Trump. I'm not afraid of Donald Trump. He's like a child. He's like a spoiled child. He spent $110 million on a campaign, and he's nowhere. And he's in favor of Common Core because he's not a smart man. He's in favor of Common Core. Think of it. He wants your children to be educated through Washington, and not smart. And you remember his famous statement about how they come over the border? They come over, it's an act of love. The illegal immigration's an act of love. These are the kind of people we have in government, largely. I mean, he's an example of a real stiff. But these are the people we have. With these people, you can never come up. And the last thing we need is another Bush. But there are other people in government that are just bad. And it's gotten totally out of control. And one of the reasons is, and some of them are smart. He's not, but you have a lot of people that are. But they're given tremendous campaign contributions by the drug companies, the oil companies. And so a lot of times you'll see things happening, and you'll say, how could that be possible? Like, I'll give you an example of the drug companies. They have total control over the different candidates, except me. I'm the only one on either side. I won't take the money. And the money that's been offered me, Bush raised $128 million, supposedly. Can you believe that? $128 million. What a waste of money. But he raised $128 million. I would have had a fund that would have been 10 times more than that if I wanted to, if I accepted the money. And I just decided I want to do this. I don't know, I'm not sure that I get credit for it, to be honest with you. You know, when the voters go to the voters, I don't know if they know this, if they realize it. I actually don't think it's worth it, probably, because I'll be spending a tremendous amount of money. Right now I'm way under budget. It's nice to hear the word under budget. You don't hear that, right? But I'm way under budget in terms of the campaign because I've gotten so much publicity I haven't had to advertise, essentially. But I don't know that it's worth it, but it's really the right thing to do. Because when you have an oil company giving you money and you have to do something with oil governmentally, or when you have a drug company, so the drug companies sell their drugs for I'm talking about prescription drugs and different drugs to make people better. They sell their drugs. There's almost no negotiation. It's almost like if you walked into a drugstore and bought them right off the counter. And yet they're the largest purchaser of drugs in the world. If we had somebody that negotiated, like me, like somebody that, or if we had a favored nations clause, that we would pay, because this is almost better, because you put too much pressure on a negotiator, because they become dishonest, okay? They end up being dishonest. They end up going to dinner with the drug company's head every night, and then all of a sudden, you'll see things happen that aren't pretty. But you put what's called the favored nations clause on. So it says, because we're the largest purchaser, we will pay, maybe even you add this, 10% lower than the lowest price that they sell drugs to anywhere in the world. So wherever they sell, whoever has the lowest price, we get 10% lower. You would save probably $300 billion a year. One thing, that's one. Now you have the same stuff on military purchases. They buy planes and they buy missiles. They buy things that they don't want. I mean, I've read about it over the years. A lot of times they're ordering equipment that they don't want. The reason they're ordering that equipment is because the manufacturer of that equipment has the politicians totally controlled, okay? We're going to get the equipment that they do want. We're going to get plenty of it. But this is the problem with politics. You know, you have people that are, in some cases, dishonest. In some cases, they are inherently dishonest because the system's a dishonest system. Who knows the system in a sense better than me? You know, I was on the other side. 7 months ago, I was a contributor, a big contributor to everybody. You know, I contribute to everybody. And I understand the system. And it's faulty. There are worse systems, but it's faulty. And we have to do something about it. So that's why it's an honor to be doing what I'm doing. I mean, we've had such a great reception. I mean, the one thing I'm asking, I don't want any of your money, but I'm asking you, you have to go out and vote tomorrow. You have to do it because, you know, we have to get rid of the Bushes of the world. And, you know, guys like that will never straighten out this country. They'll never straighten out the country. They're weak, they're ineffective, and, you know, it's just not going to happen. We do have a couple of pretty good people running. I won't name them because I don't want to tell them, you know, now. Maybe right after I leave, I'll whisper in your ear who the good ones are. But there are a couple of pretty good people. And we have to get great people in office. It's, you know, we're at a tipping point, this country. I mean, we're running against a guy who's a socialist, an avowed socialist. And he's winning. It's hard to believe. He's winning. This would have been impossible to think of 10 years ago. He's actually winning. And somebody asked me this morning, would I rather run against Hillary or Bernie? And I'm not even sure how to answer the question. It's sort of shocking. Because, you know, a couple of years ago, you would have said Bernie because you'd beat him so easily. I do really well against Hillary, so I know what I have. You know, polls have been taken where I beat her pretty easily. I don't know with Bernie. I know I'll beat him eventually, but you have to start. I haven't focused on him yet. I look forward to focusing on him. But, you know, because he's got a record that's not a good record. But to think that we're running against possibly a socialist and they're essentially tied. He's winning big in New Hampshire, so he's going to win that. But now they're sort of tied. Hard to believe, right? Now they're tied nationwide. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens with Hillary. So now I don't really say Hillary anymore because I don't know if I'm running against her. And then, of course, she shouldn't even be allowed to run based on the email stuff, but we'll find out. We'll find out. Okay, another question? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Thank you. Go ahead.
I just turned 13 last week.
He's reading the question. Now, I want to know who typed that out for him. Okay, go ahead.
I'm worried about my future and for kids my age. What can you do to control the national debt that my generation will inherit?
Okay, it's a good question. And a very fair question. We have $19 trillion in debt. We just made a horrible budget deal, approved by the Republicans, by the way. I hate to say it. You know, we know where the Democrats are coming from. But the Republicans were sent there to do things like get the debt down a little bit and then a lot. We're going to get the debt down. We're going to make our country strong. We're going to do some great things. Don't worry about it. Just go to school, get a good education. You'll be happy when you graduate. Okay? Good. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Cheryl Jensen, and my question is, what will you do in your first 90 days of office? And also, what will you do to improve our relationships with our allies?
And our enemies, because, you know, we have some cases where we have enemies that could be allies. Like Putin said nice things about me. And some of the people standing on the stand said, you should repudiate those statements. I said, why? He said really nice, he called me a genius. He said, why would I tell him I'm not going to accept that statement, right? Wouldn't it be nice if we actually got along with Russia? Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if we could get Russia to knock the hell out of ISIS instead of us spending $1 million a missile? Let them spend some of their money, okay? You know, but we have stupid people here. You know, we're people running and people in office, and I'd like to be able to get Russia to, you know, take a big hand and knock the hell out of some of these enemies. These are bad enemies. You know, these are enemies that chop off your head. I don't know how you feel the other night at the debate. How did I do in the debate? Good? Time magazine did a poll. Who won the debate? Legitimately. What was my final number? Anybody know? 67% or 70%? And second was like 5% and 6%. And it was second highest was like 5 or 6. And I got close to 70%. So I think we did really good. But one of the reasons I tell the truth. And what happened is they asked a question about, you remember waterboarding, right? And it was actually asked to Ted Cruz, a good guy. But he didn't like the question, you could see. And he was trying to be politically correct, and he didn't really want to get involved with the waterboarding because, you know, waterboarding is not a popular subject, although I view it as fine. And then they came to me, what would I do? And Ted was very queasy on whether or not he liked it, right? I said, waterboarding is not tough enough, essentially. We have people, now I didn't start off that way, I said we have people in the Middle East and other places that are chopping off the heads of Christians. James Foley's an example. Great guy, I know his parents very well, they're fantastic people. Head was chopped off. People's heads are being chopped off. This is not since medieval times that something like that happened, right? They talked about waterboarding. You know what waterboarding is? Peanuts compared to what we're talking about. So I said, waterboarding's fine, and much tougher than that is fine, too. I don't know, do most of you agree with that? I guarantee you, those animals that are cutting off heads, when they hear that we're talking about waterboarding, you know, waterboarding is essentially a minor form of doing what they do, right? You know that. It's sort of, some people say, it doesn't even qualify as that. It's fine. And much tougher than that is fine. When we're dealing with these animals, we can't be soft and weak like our politicians. They're soft, weak people, okay? And we can't be politically correct. And I can guarantee you this, that those guys that are chopping off heads of Christians in the Middle East, and others, and many others, when they hear that we're arguing about waterboarding may be too severe, it's not nice, they are laughing like hell to themselves. And they just go further and further and further. And I guarantee you that they are laughing like hell at the United States and say, can you believe those people? And all they're doing is looking for more people because they want to do the job. And with me, they've got a problem. They've got a big problem. Okay, question, go ahead.
Thank you so much for being here in Salem, and thank you for talking about your willingness to work with Putin. National security experts, including 4-star General James Cartwright, say that we need 1,000 nuclear weapons at most to deter any adversary. We currently have 7,000. That's going to cost us $3 trillion over the next 3 decades. $1 trillion over the next 3 decades. Do you think you could work with Putin to cut our arsenals to 1,000 nuclear weapons so that we have money for conventional forces?
Well, I'd rather cut his arsenals than our arsenals. I mean, part of the problem is we're cutting our arsenals. We keep cutting. And other people keep coming up and trying to develop nuclear. And until we get rid of them, I mean, we have to be protected. I hate when I hear we're cutting. Like your question is we're cutting. There's nothing worse than the nuclear. You know, my uncle was a professor at MIT for many, many years, and he used to tell me a long time ago about the power of nuclear, the power of weapons in the future. And I won't even get into it, but the power is so awesome that, you know, it's a real problem. So I want people to cut their arsenals before we cut our arsenals. You know, we like to cut, and you follow. And I know for a fact that when they say they're going to cut, they don't cut. We cut, they don't cut. So with me, it's the deal. I will tell you, I'm going to get other people to cut. We have to do something with nuclear. We have to take care of this guy in North Korea, and I wanted China to do it. You know, China got rich on the United States. The theft was incredible. The greatest theft in the history of the world is what China took out of the United States. They rebuilt China with the money they took out of the United States. So I want China to work on North Korea. They have total control. And you know who the #1 partner of North Korea is Iran. So when we made the Iran deal, and we gave them $150 billion, why didn't Kerry say you have to take care of North Korea, get that problem, get that problem taken care of? They do tremendous business, and their leading partner is actually Iran. And yet we make a deal. We don't get any help with North Korea. So we've got this maniac. We've got South Korea that we protect for peanuts. We got 28,000 soldiers on the line. And he's claiming he's making nuclear weapons. And he is. He doesn't have a delivery system yet, but he will eventually. And we have to do something about that. China can do it. China says, well, we don't really have that much. China's just taunting us. They have total control. And Iran has pretty good control. And we blew the chance with Iran because we gave them the money. We got nothing. That deal is the worst deal that I think I've ever seen made. But we'll take care of it. You don't worry about it, okay? You have confidence, I think. We'll take care of it. Yes, go ahead.
I've been following you since the early 80s. I know a lot about you and your family. You're a great man. Nobody will negotiate the way you will. My books are in the back for you to sign at the end. And there's something else if someone would like to do an interview. My wife owns an accounting firm in New York and in Boston. I don't live in New Hampshire. I'm from Boston, Swampscott, Massachusetts. I own property here. But I gotta tell you something, I'm gonna follow you around the United States, put my business aside for 6 months, and I'm gonna follow you tonight, stay in Manchester, and I'll be with you at the victory tomorrow. But more important than that, my wife handles the Glenn Doherty Foundation. He was left behind by Hillary Clinton, and nobody in this room knows the truth, but I do. They were left behind, 2 gentlemen, Navy SEALs were left behind at Benghazi with no ammo. There were 30 rounds left each, approximately. And she left them there, and they could have got out of there. That's a president?
Yeah, I've heard that. I've read about that. And the whole Benghazi thing is a horrible thing. It's amazing. It hasn't resonated with the people like it should have. Part of that is the mainstream media didn't play it up very much. And it never resonated to me like it should have. You know that. But if you really look at Benghazi, what a disgrace it was and how badly she handled it, from the ambassador to the other young guys that were killed horribly. And by the way, horribly killed. Nobody talks about the way they were killed. From what I understand, it was, it's better not to talk about it. But it was horribly killed in the worst fashion possible. So, no, it's going to be a whole different ballgame with me. Believe me, it's a whole different ballgame. And the amazing thing is we'll get along better with people. Somebody was saying, oh, but Trump is a divisive figure. I bring people together. People don't realize it. I bring people together. I have great relationships with China. I have great relationships with China. I make a fortune with, I have the Bank of America building, a big chunk of it in San Francisco. I have 1290 Avenue of the Americas, one of the biggest office buildings in New York. Nobody even knows this stuff. I got all the stuff, and I deal with China. They give me millions, tens of millions of dollars for condos. I have the largest bank in the world, which is a Chinese bank, as a tenant. I think I'm all for China. I think if China can get away with this, I'm not angry at China. I'm angry that our politicians are so stupid that they allow it to happen. Number one, we don't use our best and our finest in terms of negotiators. We use political hacks to negotiate deals with people that are trained. They're trained to take advantage of us. These are hard, tough, smart, brilliant people that are trained specifically to make trade deals with us. And we have guys that don't even know what the hell they're doing. They got there because they made a contribution to some candidate. So that's going to stop. We're going to use our toughest, best business people. We're the best business people in the world. And we're going to use our best business people, our best business minds. And we're going to turn around. We're going to lose this year $500 billion having a trade deficit with China. Think of what that is. $500 billion. We're talking about 1 year. That means we have a trade deficit with one country of $500 billion. And then Obama gives a big party, a state dinner for the head of China. They probably don't even talk about it. It's just insane. It's going to be different, folks. It's going to be different. We're not going to have state dinners. I'll have state dinners. And when we break even, I'll have state dinner. When we start making money, I'll have a double state dinner. But no. We got to get Apple to make their computers in the United States. Okay? Now, the problem we have is China devalues their currency and knocks the hell out. There's no better currency manipulator ever in the world than China. Now, other countries like Japan are doing a great job, too. we don't do a good job. We do a bad job. But I appreciate your statement, man. That's really nice, and I won't disappoint you. You've been following me for a long time. You know, I win. I win. Okay? Thank you, man. That's cool. Thank you. You know, in a lot of places in this country, they do vote 10 times. Not you, but there are people that vote many times. How about when they don't want to give any identification? We don't want to identify. We want a card. No, you can't have a card. It's unbelievable, right?
It is.
Unbelievable. And they, believe me, those people, they vote plenty. And if I get the nomination, I'm going to fight like hell to make sure that I don't have some person that's not even a resident of the country, that's not even illegal in the country, that person's not voting 47 times for somebody. And it won't be for me, I guarantee you that. So we're going to work on that. But I appreciate that. 10 times, that's okay. That's a minimal number, you know, for some people, right?
My question to you is, when, and I gladly say when, you are elected president, would you consider any of your running mates to be in the cabinet?
When you say running mates, the people that are running now?
Yes.
Yeah, I like a few of them. I think a few of them have good talent. You know, I've become friendly. I'm sort of almost friendly with all of them. I mean, I don't have a lot of respect for Jeb. You know, Jeb is a lightweight, let me tell you. But I don't have a lot of respect for Jeb. And there's a couple of others who I don't have a lot of respect for. I won't mention names, but some are very talented people. And yeah, I would certainly think about that. I mean, usually they ask that question as a vice president, you know. And I don't even like talking about it though, because I want to close the deal. You know, I've been a closer all my life. I get the deal done, right? We get the deal done. So I want to get the deal done. And when we get the deal done, we'll talk about it. But yeah, there are some good people up there. There are some good people. Nice question, and I appreciate the 10 votes. By the way, tonight at Verizon Arena, we're having an event. We're looking at 4,000 or 5,000 people. Now, I don't know if it snows, so I may be standing there by myself. The snow, why does it have to snow now? But we have the arena, and we've cut it, and we have this incredible curtain and backdrop, and I think it's going to be fantastic. And we're going to have 4,000 or 5,000 people there tonight. Could be even a little more than that. And you guys are all invited. I think we're going to have a little party, and then the next day you're going to leave that arena, you're going to go out, you're going to stand, and I don't care if it snows or not, we got to vote. Because we really do. You know, I said before, I'm not asking for your money, I'm asking for your vote. The one thing we have to do, because this is like a destiny thing, we have a movement going on. We're going to take back our country. We're going to make America great again. We're going to start winning again. You know, we don't win anymore. When was the last time, and I mentioned this when I make speeches, when do we win? We don't win anymore. What was the last time you heard, we beat China in trade? We beat ISIS. We never beat ISIS. It's just this long slog. Long slog. You don't even know what's going on. It just never ends. Just keeps going, going. I guarantee you, we're going to beat ISIS. I'm going to be the worst thing that ever happened back to our country. And remember this. I'm the one that didn't want to go into Iraq because I said if you go into Iraq, you're going to destabilize the Middle East because you're going to ruin, you know, Iran has a lot of power and Iraq had a lot of power militarily, and they were always fighting with each other. And there was like a line. The line never moved. I always say it goes 10 feet this way, 10 feet that way, then they rest. Then it goes again and again. Well, we decapitated the one side, which was stupid to do, but we did that. And by doing that, we've, you know, destabilized the entire Middle East. And then Obama, that was Bush that did that. It was a mistake. And then Obama, remember, took Jeb 5 days before he realized it was a mistake. He had no idea how to answer the question. Then his pollster told him. Obama then didn't get out the right way. He gave a date. How about this? He gives a date. We are getting out of Iraq on this date. And the enemy pulls back. They say, why should we fight? They're leaving. So they get out. The enemy takes over. It's so sad. The way we run things is so sad. I'll give you another little example. A few months ago, remember the 50 soldiers that we're sending over? So he gets up and announces that we're sending 50 soldiers. Those soldiers have a target on their back. Why can't he keep his mouth shut? You know, we're so predictable. We need unpredictability. Sometimes I'll get a question from these people, and I'll say, I don't want to answer the question, because if I win, I don't want to give everything to the enemy. You know, they want answers for everything. The problem is if you don't give them the answer, then they'll say you don't know, which is always a problem. It's our system. But we need unpredictability. we have such predictability. We have guys on television, yes, we're going to attack here. And then after that, we're going to attack here, and then we're going, that's the way we do it. The enemy's watching. And we need some silence, and we need unpredictability. We have to be more unpredictable. And you know what? And if it costs me votes, and if some people want to say, for instance, I was the only one that said hit the oil. I've been saying hit the oil for 5 years, right? I've been saying hit the oil, hit the oil. And Obama actually had one of his big military people come out a year ago. And they asked him on television, well, Mr. Trump is saying take the oil. What do you think? Because I actually said take the oil, not just hit it. I said hit it, but take it. And this military said, no, that wouldn't work because of it. I said, why wouldn't it work? In the meantime, it turned out I was right. And they've made so much, ISIS has made so much money with the oil that they're very powerful. Now if you hit the oil, they're good for 2 or 3 years because they made so much money. They're making $1 million a day with the oil. They were. Now they're still making a lot of money with it. So, but I said hit the oil, so they only started hitting it right after the horrible attack in Paris. And actually it was the French that started hitting it before we did. We're not hitting it very hard because we don't want to, we don't want to cause, I don't know, did you hear this? We don't hit it hard because we don't want to cause environmental pollution. You know that, right? That's one of the reasons we're not hitting it. We don't want the atmosphere polluted. I mean, this whole country is so, these people, they don't know. They don't know. When they think that global warming is a bigger threat than Russia, nuclear weapons, China, ISIS, all of this, what's our biggest problem? Global warming. It's sort of funny, and I tell this story all the time. Obama's always talking about the carbon footprint. And yet he'll fly to Hawaii in a 747 and back to play golf. But we talk about the global footprint and the carbon footprint, and it's crazy. It's crazy. So all of that stuff will stop. One thing I would say, I love golf. I love the whole thing. I own many of the greatest clubs. I own Doral. I own Turnberry in Scotland. I own some of the greatest. I own like just about the greatest clubs in the world, many of them. But you know what? When you're in the White House, who the hell wants to play golf? And number one, there's so much to do. You got to get people together. And if you do play golf, I think it's great because you get people together on the course. Do it with groups in the Congress and people like that you have to make deals with, and people from other countries, and play and have a good time and be their friends and cajole and make deals that are great deals for this country. Don't play with the same people you've been playing with. Your friends, it doesn't do you any good. But if you were in the White House, who wants to leave? You're there for a limited period of time. You got to work hard, and you got to, to make deals like that, where you have to make deals with Congress, you have to get along with the Democrats, make deals, but make good deals, like Reagan used to do with Tip O'Neill. But to do that, you have to work hard. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and we're going to get great deals done. We're going to get great deals. We're going to bring the country back, because the country is really right now, our deficit is phenomenal. Essentially, it says we lose a lot of money. Our deficit is just right through the roof, and we're going to make great deals, and we're going to bring it back. Yes? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Trump. We talk a lot about general policies, but I want to get a little bit more specific, if it's okay. I'm from a community in Connecticut, one you're familiar with, I won't name it. You own a home there?
Greenwich?
Yes, sir. Their plans...
He's a rich guy.
Did
Hillary send you?
No. There's plans in place now to relocate a few Syrian families in the community. The community has been very open and welcoming of these families. Some of their children are ages 5, 8, 10, 12, are planning to go to school there. I know we all probably know what your general policies are towards refugees. I'm wondering if you would be able to look at these children in the face and tell them that they are not allowed to go to school in a community.
How long have they been here?
Some of them are here and some of them have been here.
How long have they been here?
Some of them aren't here yet.
Oh, I can look at their face and say you can't come here. Look. We have a country. I'll look at them. We don't know where their parents come from. Their parents should always stay with them. You have to keep them together. That's very important. But we don't know where their parents come from. They have no documentation. They have no documentation whatsoever. I've talked to the greatest legal people. I've spoken to the greatest security people. There is absolutely no way of saying where these people come. They may be from Syria, they may be ISIS, they may be ISIS related. As you know, and you've been reading, they caught people with ISIS relationships to the migration, where they got pulled out, fully ISIS related. A lot of things that are strange. You look at the migration, there's so many young men in the migration. You say, where are the women and children? You know, there are women and children, but not a lot. And then you see them on cell phones. Where the hell do they get their cell phones? This is a migration. They have no anything, and yet they have cell phones. And then they have cell phones with ISIS flags on them. You've seen that. And worse, they have cell phones with a lot of bad stuff on them. A lot of bad stuff on them. But they have cell phones with ISIS flags on them. They're in the migration. Where the hell do they get the cell phones? Who the hell pays the bill? Who's paying the bill for the cell phone? And you say little things like that. Does that make any sense, okay? But you look at it and you say, we have enough problems. Now, I believe, look, I have a bigger heart than anybody in this room, and I think what we do is we take an area in Syria, or numbers of areas, we do safe zones, where you build safe zones. Germany's in turmoil. All of these countries are in turmoil. The crime, by the way, is through the roof. You're going to have a revolution in Germany. Wait till you see what they do with Merkel. What she did is insane. It's insane. And I'm only saying, I know what you're doing, and I fully understand it, and we all have a heart, but we have to get the Gulf states to put up money. The Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, before the oil went down, so now they're making half. Saudi Arabia was making $1 billion a day. We protect Saudi Arabia for peanuts. We have leases where we have military bases, we pay them rent. We're paying rent, and we're protecting them. Who would do these deals? We're paying rent, and we're protecting Saudi Arabia, they're making $1 billion a day, right? The Gulf states, who are very immensely wealthy, should put up money. I want them to put up the money. We'll help and we'll get it done. But we're tired of putting up money. We're a debtor nation. We owe the $19 trillion, which is soon going to be $21 trillion. And I think we should do big safe zones in Syria. And when this whole mess is over, they can go back and rebuild their areas, their communities, which is probably where they want to be anyway. You know, I have many people that work for me, and they come from some very poor countries. And I've seen it over the years, when they retire, when they leave, they want to go back to their country. I say, why? Because we love our country. You would never even think that. We love New Hampshire. You know, I wouldn't mind being here. The truth is, you have people that work even in New Hampshire. And when they leave, when they have enough money, they retire, they go back to a country that you wouldn't believe they want to, but they want to. These people probably want to go back to Syria and their areas in Syria when this whole horrible thing is over. So that's what I think we should do. I don't think they should be moving into Greenwich, Connecticut. I don't think they should be coming into the United States because we have no idea. You saw the damage that two radicalized people can do. We're taking thousands and thousands of people. Now, I don't think it is, but it could be a Trojan horse. But if 10% of those people, if 2% of those people were bad, the trouble is unbelievable. So, but I understand where you're coming from. But there is a second view to that. Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Trump, thank you. Early on, you mentioned about keeping jobs in our country.
Yeah, and bringing them back in.
And bringing them back in. One of the things that I've had to do over the past 2 years is lay off 2/3 of my workforce and replace the workers with employees from India. How do you plan on stopping that?
Well, you do have a problem with that. And when you can't you have the visa situation. You know, we have a visa situation where you can bring in. And there are some areas, like in California with the grape pickers, where they say that you really have to do that. And I'm totally open to that, where you'll bring them in seasonally and they'll come in legally. Look, the main thing is they have to come in legally. If they don't come in legally, we don't have a country. If people can walk across the border and just walk across like they're doing now, we don't have a country. And are you able to get American people to do the job? Why aren't you doing that?
Well, to do the job.
So you're saying you laid off people, and now you have people from India.
So we're laying off American workers, and then I'm having to hire them over in India. So we've built our center.
You mean you're hiring people in India?
So we've built our center of excellence in India, and we're
And why did you do that? Why did you do that? Why did you do that?
so low cost.
Because of low cost, yeah. But you know, one of the reasons you can do that is because of the devaluations and monetary manipulation. And our country doesn't know. I don't think if you told Barack Obama about monetary manipulation and the various manipulations of different currencies, I don't think he has a clue as to what's happening. Okay? The reason that works, you know, is the devaluations. And now we have a strong dollar, and it's really inverse. A strong dollar means we're not going to do any business, basically. I mean, it sounds good. You know, it's funny. The word strong dollar sounds great. Oh, we have a strong... That's the good news. The bad news is we're not going to export anything. You look at Caterpillar tractor, it's getting killed, largely because of the strong dollar. And you look at Komatsu, which is a competitor of Caterpillar. They're in Japan. They're doing phenomenal because the weak yen, they've, you know, devalued the yen. So look, I know how to play that game better than anybody. And the reason you're doing that, and you understand what I'm saying, they've devalued to such an extent that it's very hard to compete in this country. Believe me, we're going to be so competitive. We're going to be, and we're getting rid of a lot of the rules and regulations. You have regulations that are killing businesses. You have regulations that where a puddle will form on somebody's farm, a puddle, and it's considered a lake, and people can't touch it. The whole thing is just insane. We will get rid of so many of the regulations, and some of the regulations are good, and you need some regulation, but we're going to get rid of some of the regulations. We're going to bring our business roaring back. One of the big things I've done, as you know, is I have a massive tax cut. We're the highest taxed nation in the world, by far. And we're going to be at the lower end of the pack. And it's going to be great for business, and it's going to be great for the middle class, because the middle class is being decimated in our country. You know, people are taking care of people with no money, and they're taking care of people with a lot of money. I'll tell you right now. But the middle class has been totally left out and totally forgotten about. So we're going to take care of, we're going to rebuild our middle class. It's so important. And we're going to start with major tax cuts. Okay? Thank you. Great question, actually. Hi, how are you?
All right. I don't have a question, Mr. Trump, but speaking for myself and the rest of the women in this room, to see Melania in the White House would be nothing short of phenomenal. And when you say that she's as beautiful on the inside as she is on the outside, I think that's great. So go and make America great again.
Well, I'll tell her. She's coming in a little while, so I'll tell her. That's so nice. Thank you. She will. She's a brilliant person. She's very beautiful, but she's even more beautiful on the inside. So I'm going to tell her you said that, okay? It's really nice. Oh, what is your name? Melanie. Thank you, Melanie. So nice. Close. How about one or two more, and then I want you to go back, go to work. I was going to say rest, don't rest. We got to work in this country, right? But go back, do whatever you have to do, and come tonight if you want, but much more importantly, go out tomorrow and vote. We want to set a mandate. Okay, go ahead.
How's it going, Donald? My name's Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
I'm a union member, and I haven't heard anybody talk about the union debate, how, you know, obviously the Democrats usually get the majority of the union vote. I'm just curious, speaking of deals and stuff like that, you know, what could you say to the union people that would, you know, get their vote?
I love the question. I love it. So the Teamsters, over the years, you know, I work in areas where we have unions, we don't have unions. Manhattan is 100%. You're building a building, it's essentially 100% union. So I've worked with unions over the years. I've done very well with unions. And I have tremendous support within unions. And I have tremendous support in areas where they don't have unions. Like in Florida, they don't have very many unions. The workers love me. I mean, my support is really with those workers, those people. That's it, the policemen, the firemen, the construction workers, the lathers, the sheetrock workers, the electricians, the plumbers. That's where my support is. Every poll shows it. And it's also with very smart people, I have pretty much, my weakest support is with very rich people. Isn't that funny? I don't get along that well with the rich. I don't even like the rich people that much. It's like a weird deal. You know, I grew up, my father would build houses in Brooklyn and Queens, and I worked with the construction trades, and I know how to build a house blindfolded, and I know how to build, and like I'm building a big hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. that everybody wanted and I got from the federal government, the old post office, and it's 2 years ahead of schedule and under budget. You don't hear that stuff. And it's going to open in September, which is 2 years ahead of schedule. Think of that, 2 years. Can you imagine if we could run the country like that? And to a big extent we can. And we're not going to have cost overruns. You know, when we build a project, the project's going to cost $100 million. It costs $2 billion. Now think of it. Think if you're the contractor, and a project's going to cost 100. And I mean, you have examples of a hospital. You had one up here, didn't you? Where you had a hospital that cost like $1 billion. And you look at it, it looks like nothing. But they have cost overruns in the federal government that are massive. There's no reason for it. So, look, nobody knows that stuff because we have to rebuild our infrastructure in this country. And nobody else understands building. That's what I do best, actually. But I deal with the unions. So the unions have a big problem because the unions are almost all Democrat, right? Like the Teamsters. And I don't know if you saw James Hoffa, the head of the Teamsters, about 2 weeks ago, said, I'm not sure what we can do. They're having a revolution within the Teamsters because the men want to vote, the men and people of the Teamsters want to vote for me. The leadership is always stuck with the Democrats because, you know, that's the way it is. It's almost like a tradition. But the workers want to vote for Trump. And they're having a hard time. And they were going to endorse Hillary and they put it off. Pretty sad. But the men and women of the Teamsters are with Trump. They're going to vote for me. The workers of this country are going to vote for me because I'm going to create jobs. Hillary's not bringing back jobs from China. She wouldn't do that because there are too many fundraisers that she's given for people where it makes sense to be in China, including the country itself. You know, China itself has lobbyists. Can you imagine how much they pay these people? And these lobbyists contribute to the candidates. The other night at the debate, okay? So I saw people I know so many people. You know, I know many of the lobbyists. I know many of the special interests. I know the oil company guys. So we have like 1,000 seats, and they were going to give a lot of the seats to the students. And I only got 20 seats. You know, got the highest ratings I read last night. That debate was the highest rated debate, Republican primary debate. Now, maybe it said on Saturday night or something, I don't know. But it was the highest rated that they've had in more than 20 years. They can't find the date. It may have been ever. You know why? Not because of Jeb Bush, a total stiff. Okay? It's because of Trump, I hate to say it. No, they got the highest ratings. No, it's true. I mean, So we said we need tickets because a lot of my friends wanted to go. We got 20 tickets. All of the contestants the candidates got 20 tickets, right? So we got 20 tickets. I said, who got the tickets? The RNC told me. They said, the people that put up money, the funders, meaning the special interest, the lobbyists, and the donors. So the donors got all the tickets. I said, but I don't have any donors. I'm going to get killed. I'm going to get killed. I don't have any donors. This is a big point. I'm the only one that would mention that during the debate. Because I noticed that a couple of guys, like Jeb Bush would give an answer, and everybody would clap. Of course, they total control. I mean, they have total control over this guy. The donors were all clapping for their individual person. Now, here's the thing. I won the debate. Look, when Time Magazine said I had almost 70% of the vote, and you know, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of people voting in. But when they vote, and then I have 70, and the other ones have 5 and 4 and 3 and 7, I think was the highest one. Well, you know, I say, why are they clapping for the various other candidates? Because those people are all giving them money. These people that are running against me, if somebody gets in, they're going to take care of those people. That's the way it goes. I don't even say anything wrong with it. I think that's the way life is. You know, it's called human nature, right? It could be further than that, but let's call it just human nature. But we have a problem in this country because all of these guys will not straighten out the problems. When the oil companies come to me to, you know, get rid of a tax that they should be paying, or when the oil companies come to me to do something else, or when the drug companies come to me and they say, Donald, this is terrible. They actually want us to bid out drugs. They want us to bid on the price. I'm going to say, absolutely. No other candidate's going to say that. Because the drug Johnson & Johnson, I mean, Woody Johnson, who is a big owner of Johnson & Johnson, he's a great guy, he owns the Jets, he's a friend of mine. But he's in charge of financing for Jeb Bush's campaign. I was just telling you, just unrelated, I was just telling you about the drug companies. He is an owner of Johnson & Johnson, it's Woody Johnson. So when he goes to Jeb Bush, do me a favor, Jeb, don't put out competitive bidding, even though it's going to save the country maybe $300 billion a year. You think Jeb Bush is going to put out competitive bidding? I mean, it's ridiculous. So, I mean, and that's the way life is. I'm not even blaming anybody. With me, you're going to get a fair shake. With me, again, I don't get any money from any of these special interests. And I know the special interests. I know them better than anybody. But I don't want their money. They've offered me so much money. Look, I've been #1 in the polls practically since the day I announced, which is June 16th. Right? When you're #1 in the polls, when you're #1, everybody comes to you to give you all the money you want. I could have had, I'm telling you, I would have had a $500 or $600 million fund. And I said, I can't take it. I'm not going to take it. I could have had the biggest fund ever created up until this point. So easy. Guys were offering me $5 million. Can I do 5? Can I do 10? I have one guy who's a very rich guy. He didn't even understand me. Every time I see him, no, you don't understand. And he's not even that political. And actually, I don't even think I'd ever be able to do anything for him because I don't even think he needs politicians. But he comes to me and goes, Donald, I can tell you what he does here. Fantastic success. And it's in Palm Beach, Florida. And every time I see him, he comes up to me and goes, Donald, no, you don't understand. I want to give you money. And I go, his name is Howard, this person, okay? And he's such a good guy. I go, Howard, you don't understand. I don't want your money. And he goes like this, really? I don't understand you. He doesn't even understand. He's a really rich guy, really smart. And every time I see him, he goes, Donald, can I give you money now? He doesn't want anything. He just wants to give me money, and I keep turning him down. And I feel a little foolish, because, my whole life has been about taking money. And I joke, I say, my whole life has been about being greedy. I'm greedy, I'm greedy, I'm greedy. Now, I'm going to be greedy for the United States. I'm going to bring in money for the United States and jobs. We're going to be greedy for the United States. And I have said, even some of my opponents say Trump can't be bought. I can't be bought, it just can't be bought. I did too well. I made too much and I did too well. And that's the way it is. So I can't be bought. And that's what you need, folks. You need somebody that can't be bought. And there's nobody else in this whole deal that's not accepting massive amounts of money. You look at these guys, I look at the ads on television. There's so many ads. They're costing millions and millions of dollars. And it's all being paid for by lobbyists and special interests. And not me. When you see my ads on television, which are meager, I don't need too much ads. I mean, people know pretty much who I am, what I am. But it's all being paid for by me. So anyway, I just want to thank you very much. It's a special group of people. I love doing this. I love these things even more than making a speech because I love to hear the feedback. I get some good questions, even from Greenwich. Look at him. He's been taping the whole thing, so we'll probably see it on television, but that's okay. But that's okay. He looks like a good guy. So I just want to say, folks, get out tomorrow and vote. So important. I love you all. I promise you, we are going to do such a great job. Thank you very much. Thank you.